SB-140. I believe that minors should not have access to permanent gender-affirming care/surgeries, and I am in support of this bill. Good morning, class, or afternoon, depending on when this is being played. The bill I selected to discuss is SB-140. This bill takes a dive into prohibiting permanent surgeries or certain gender-affirming care for minors under 18 years of age. Gender identity and its medical implications for minors have sparked massive debate across the public in recent years. At the core of this discussion is Georgia Senate Bill 140, or SB 140, currently awaiting Governor Kemp's signature. Supporters, such as myself, advocate for caution in permanent medical decisions for the youth, while the opposing side argue for unrestricted access to this care based on the mental health benefits. I support this bill because it prioritizes the protection and well-being of minors, making sure they do not make any irreversible decisions that they may come to regret later in the future. Now, delving into my main argument on why I am in support of the SB 140 bill, children's brains are not fully developed and they may make decisions they believe are correct then regret later down the line, such as taking gender-affirming care/surgeries to change their gender. Children and teens should wait until they are older, and the Georgia Assembly agrees, stating, "We have an obligation to protect children whose brains and executive functioning are still developing from undergoing unnecessary and irreversible medical treatments." SB 140, line 31. This viewpoint shows the importance of ensuring that decisions about medical interventions are made with full maturity and understanding, allowing young people the opportunity to fully grasp the long-term effects before proceeding with any irreversible procedures. The author of the bill, Senator Summers, stated in an article, "The purpose of the bill is to give minors a pause on making irreversible decisions before adulthood. This focus is the reason the bill prohibits minors from receiving gender-affirming care with the permanent effects, such as hormone replacement therapy and surgery, but does not include reversible care, such as puberty blockers, nor does the bill prevent those over the age of 18 from seeking gender-affirming care." CASA 130. This approach further recognizes that reversible options like puberty blockers that provide a temporary solution without the same level of irreversible consequences will remain available for minors considering a transition. Another critical argument in favor of SB 140 is the concern over the high rates of mental health issues among transgender youth, which could be exaggerated by early medical procedures. Gender dysphoria is the medical term for when people feel anxiety and depression by not being in the body they believe they were meant to be in. This is what most minors that desire to be on gender-affirming care have. With these behaviors becoming a newer, more accepted thing in society, it is still in the unknown of what long-term effects may be, as backed in this article. Conflicting evidence may suggest that puberty blockers lead to worse mental health outcomes in children. It is unclear whether improvements or diminishment of mental health outcomes in transgender youth are causally related to aging, gender-affirming treatments, both or neither. Holman, line 37. On the other side of the argument, critics of this bill highlight the harmful consequences of denying gender-affirming care to minors with gender dysphoria. They argue that restricting access to certain medical treatment adds to the mental health issues and increases the risk of self-harm among the transgender youth. According to one study, not only did transgender youth have higher rates of anxiety, but they were also disproportionately affected by suicide ideation, suicide attempts, and self-harm. Holman, line 31. A similar article even went as far as saying gender-affirming care is beneficial for minors, stating, "For transgender youth, access to gender-affirming medical care has potential to improve the quality of life for the individual in relation to their mental health, social integration, and legal status." Calton, page 481. Denying transgender minors gender-affirming care may worsen their mental health issues, leading to tragic outcomes. The bill unfortunately does not address the immediate needs of the youth, leaving them without essential support. As Senator Harrell expressed, "The problem I have with this bill is that it only addresses what we won't do for our children. Instead, I feel like what we really need to focus on is what we can do for these kids. We cannot take away any treatment for these kids without having something else in place, and we don't have anything else in place." Non-supporters argue that without providing alternative support systems, the bill leaves the vulnerable youth at a greater risk of mental health crisis. In response to these concerns, the main pieces of SB 140 argue that the potential risk and unknowns connected to gender-affirming care for minors calls for a more cautious approach. In the bill, there is no outright denial of care, but instead a safeguard to make sure that the irreversible decisions are made with full maturity and understanding. The bill highlights that children are still in the developing stages, both physically and mentally, and might not fully understand the long-term consequences of such significant medical procedures. The General Assembly's statement, and I quote, "Under the principle of do no harm, taking a wait-and-see approach to minors with gender dysphoria, providing counseling and allowing the child time to mature and develop his or her own identity is preferable to causing the child permanent physical damage." SB-140, line 27. This underlines the need to prioritize protection over immediate medical interventions. While it is true that transgender youth face mental health challenges, it is also important to consider that conflicting evidence may suggest that puberty blockers lead to worse mental health outcomes in children, as mentioned previously. This uncertainty leads to belief that a delay in gender-affirming care until a more mature age might actually serve to better protect the youth's mental and physical health in the long run. The bill's overall goal is to prevent premature decisions that will lead to regret or further health complications, pushing for a more balanced approach that will take into consideration the potential long-term impacts on the children's lives. To conclude, while the debate over SB 140 continues to unfold, it is important to consider both the potential risks and benefits associated with gender-affirming care for minors. The bill brings up a cautious approach, with a focus on the long-term health and decision-making capability of the youth. By highlighting the need for maturity before irreversible medical procedures, at the heart of the bill, SB 140 aims to protect minors from the potential future regrets and health complications. And that is why I am in support of this bill. Thank you for your time.